Hi everyone, welcome back. So this is week 3, week 4 we're getting into now. So I want to talk about factors of the business for solutions, things we don't really think about in IT, but really are a conductive piece to how we should think. Everything we do has a third order consequence and a mitigating factor to what the needs are for the supplier or our organization. I hit on Bullman and Dill's 4 frames and the organizational structures before, and you're reading some of these things now. We're starting to think about the actual business processes, and I know a lot of you still have never had an economics course or a business side course, so a lot of you have to start thinking a little bit outside of your friendly box, we'll call it, your domain, the outside area where we're not used to being. We'll think about political forces today, and that's not a force of armory in most cases, but these things can be political forces by the idea, if we do user task analysis, one person has a different opinion from someone else. So if we go about looking at how we want to design things, except our opinions can be different from our clients, so we end up getting into what's called a political force to where we're having a debate, and that's where our science always helps us out. Also, things like culture in an organization or a community. We all know what culture is. There's a student culture in every classroom. Every teacher brings a different culture to their own classroom. Some are straightforward, very dry. Some are fun and poke fun at themselves. You hear me when I'm doing lectures. I allow background noises, my dogs to bark. I show you pictures of my horses. I'm very open about having fun and being part of your lives. Others are not. That creates a culture and an environment. It also creates a climate in the culture, and that's an area to where you know whether or not it's an open discussion climate. You want to debate an idea, a philosophy, or a way or a direction to do that. In a lot of climates, the leader says, "This is it, we go forward." And you stay on the boat and you row as you're supposed to. Others are open to allowing you to say, you know what, I want to try the left oar, I want to try the right oar. Instead of us using an oar, why don't we put a motor on? So let's talk a little bit more about business factors and organization factors. The social takes a lot of time, and we have to invest a lot of time with other people that we'll work on. A lot of you experience this in the capstone courses with your agile teams. You'll spend so much time creating a culture and a unity before you get working that it's very difficult to get the work done sometimes. Others, you'll jump right in, the great culture, and you'll get moving, like Zappos' culture. They hire for the cultural fit. They want to make sure you're going to fit so they don't have to train you or get you into their groove. It's very different. Capital and labor always are considering factors of a project happening or an organization staying afloat. They also have to have a primary asset that they're using for production. They have to have a reason. We just don't build to build. We like doing code, we like doing websites, we like building things and graphics, but there has to be a primary consumer or a client or a reason to meet this end. Behavioral can be a lot of things. And when I say behavioral in employees instance, you can think of this as a collection of rights. A lot of times there's unions to help support these ideas. Or there's privileges and obligations. We can think about this just for access of a certain site or access to data pools. There's people that have to be responsible for checking them. The same as values, the same as we have values and norms and core values here at the university, and as students and faculty. We all follow the same core value and support them. A lot of these times you'll call things standard operating procedures. They are the rules. And we know this from coding. There's rules. If you want to put tags on a website, you have to know how to do that. You have to know common practices that are universal so other people can read your language and understand, or your code can integrate. There's some interesting ideas and practices that have come about this. I love using a quick little story about Chicago emergency rooms being overfilled in the winter, and they can never understand why. Well, a scientist went in and a doctor and trying to figure this problem out, and he sat and watched. He found out that the rooms were always full in the winter because the homeless people found out that if they came in and faked a heart attack, they would have to be admitted overnight. So they would stay in a bed and be able to sleep, and in the morning they were released. So he came up with an idea, the same as we kind of come up with the if-then stage, because he liked doing coding and the ideas. So he put it to parameters like that. So nurses could understand how to monitor and understand if a person was really having a heart attack or not. He put it into stages for a solution. He looked to see if they had an arm pain, usually lefts in the males. If they had stomach pains, that usually was an indicator. If they were sweating, that was another indicator. If they passed these, and they would go on to an EKG machine in the back before they were fully admitted, and they were evaluated there to see if there was actual arrhythmia in the hearts that was classifying for a heart attack. It could go one or other way. It could be anxiety and frustrations, or it could be a true heart attack, or it could be a false positive. If it was that, they were sent back out, unfortunately, to the street, but given advice on how to get to a shelter and where to get warm food. This decreased the amount of, you got it, costs in the emergency rooms and making sure patients that needed help could get there. Today they do this all computerized. They add the symptoms in, it brings out a mathematical equation and shows whether or not they should admit you or not. This might be something you'd be interested in the healthcare industry, helping to organize some structure in this manner. And it brings up the idea of organizational structures too. So we have to think about this. Mittsburg had 5 classifications. The entrepreneurial, which is what I always encourage you guys, is a single CIO. The family, the father, who creates this patriarch kind of idea in a fast climate. Especially today, there's so much out there with apps and designs and ideas. A lot of these things are coming through there. The machine bureaucracy, we all know. You might work for Taco Bell or one of these places. They're very machine bureaucracy, just like McDonald's. They have their own university, their own ideas, their own philosophies that you build from, and you follow that or you're out. Divisional is kind of smaller, broken down, kind of the way we think of agile teams that are managed, and someone supports to a middle manager who supports to those supervisors, to the CIO or the vice presidents. It's more divisional, just like the word sounds. One of the things that you think about too is a lot of times, just like in a university, we have department heads, and you'll probably work in a situation to where heads of the department report to the dean like we do, or multiple heads report to one dean or overseas who reports to the vice president. It kind of breaks down further and further. They start calling us bureaucracies. And then you get in adhocracy, where inside of there, you start having task force. MITRE Corporation's a big one for this. They have rolling agile teams, and no one's ever on a real team. They work and jump with their specialties when they're needed. It's kind of a short-lived team for a very agile, quick response, quick build to solve problems and constant problem solving. The employees are encouraged to walk around and step in other people's work and see what's going on, and see if they can help out if they have nothing happening. Or if someone knows a team member that has the ability, they're to go over, grab them, pull them, and steal them, and then replace them a little later. A lot of this interesting stuff comes today. What I love is disruptive technologies, which I like to study, and particularly how they change our culture in youth, or in employees, or in businesses. When we think of disruptive, a lot of times there's substitutes for a key product. And we can think of them by the generic terms a lot of times. You can buy an Apple iWatch, or you can buy 5 or 6 other generic brands, and they might cost $20. They'll get away with everything that you want it to do in most cases, but it's not the true first design. Or they're ones that start like the 8-track. You ever hear of them? Probably not. How about a tape or a CD? Well, most of you probably heard of CD, and most of you had an iPod, but how many of them still use them? Nobody. Heck, I use my watch today and my phone. Think about bank tellers. They're pretty much gone now. ATM machines are also leaving us because everything's virtual with an app that we take pictures of our checks and deposit them, and we don't even need to go to a bank, so banks are becoming virtual overall. Naka is one of my favorite theorists, and he studied how we use these things and why we like them, and why we change or buy one thing from another. Why do we buy a Ford over a Dodge? Why did Camry become such a great thing in the 1980s? Well, they found out because of the economic downturn that people just needed a simple car to get to A to B. They didn't need the Cadillac. They didn't need the Ford Mustangs. They needed very cheap, very simple. Toyota studied what the needs were and created the Toyota Camry, which all they had to do, and they boasted, was change the oil every 4,000 miles and you're ready to go. It was a very disruptive technology to the automobile industry. We see this in automobiles, how we're coding now. Look at the way that things are happening. You now can have internet in the cars, you can have satellite, GPS, everything you can possibly need that you would have in your home. Your car even communicates to your house. Like mine, it tells it to turn my thermostat onto my comfort zones because I'm approaching house when I'm in a certain range. My watch tells me my distance to the house when I walk out of the university and how long, according to traffic, it'll take me to get home. These are all disruptive technologies that are changing quack. A lot of these have costs and transaction costs. The economic side again, I keep bouncing back and you guys are cringing a little bit, but it's okay. IT leaders are really into reductions of costs. And a lot of the communicating devices we use today are doing this. Google Hangouts, Skype, all kinds of different ones are popping up, Slack apps. They also have monitoring capabilities to understand where our supplies and demands are in real time. Insurance does this now by collecting data to actually change or lower from how fast or slow you drive. They'll have you give them access to your car, or how many wrecks you're in, or how many wrecks in the area you're in. They will increase your insurance because it says it's a high-risk area. So there's ways that technology is being used in our IT, and the data backups that we have are actually changing our lives and we don't even know it, because big industry is using this data to actually form new opinions on pricing. Look at the university, how it's changing. We've gone from in-house to remote lectures and VCon to multiple campus that I'm projected to online like you're doing now. We don't need a campus anymore. We don't need my office. Most of the times, I work out of the house. I'm here. You need me. I pop up on Skype at any time. We talk at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. My overseas students, we talk 3, 4 a.m. face to face. It's a space reduction. Utilities are lowered. There's no sunk costs. Sunk costs are these things like a computer desk, a computer to work on, carpet in the office, a framed picture, things that make the behavior pleasant. When you eliminate all these and you send employees home, like faculty are doing now, the university saves tons of monies, which can be reflected into lowering your tuition costs. Pretty interesting. IT has a lot of great advantages for you. Agency theory is a lot of times I like to put this into the third party, the vendors. If we think about this today, a lot of companies ship all of their IT related upgrades overseas because it's cheap later and they can do everything remotely. So they have less employees on hand, which means they have to have less business benefit packages put out. They don't have to have the desks. They don't have to have the internet connections to food, the managers. There's overhaul that they don't have to have, and overhead they don't have to have. And they even start eliminating managers because they let third-party managers take care of this and just pay a single price. A lot of you will get into this working virtual to work for global corporations to where you work on machines all over the world. A good friend of mine does this for a small company in Pennsylvania, and he manages a team of IT specialists and network people that actually maintain all the servers, all the computers, all the upgrades, and he's doing it from an office. He's convinced them, after working with me, to let him work out of his basement. So they remodeled his house because it was cheaper, and he promised to give him an extra 2 hours of work a day because he doesn't have to drive an hour and back in traffic. It flattens organizations is a term you'll hear. IT does this. It creates, one, less needed jobs, but it also creates more jobs, more people with specialized skills like yourself. Porter's competitive force model is interesting as well. It's about business environment is what it really looks at. One of the things just to hit on so you guys understand this is the low barrier costs. And by means of that, it's a new entrance into the market space. A new company doesn't have the overhead as an established company. What do I mean by that? Well, you can go to work for yourself and you could sell your scripts, you could sell your code, you could sell your network abilities to anyone as a free agent. Versus if you're hired at Geico or somewhere special, a big company, and they're hiring you as a team, as soon as you're hired, they are responsible for your computer, your well-being, your health care, making sure you're at work on time and an hourly schedule and a chair and a desk. These are all low barrier things that you can get away with a new entry into the field. Suppliers can do this a lot of times. Think about all the new PCs and models you see out there. They'll buy keyboards, they'll buy different parts, and they'll sell them at Walmart, even though they might be in an internal IBM hard drive. We saw this with barcodes, how it trains the idea of how many people we needed to stand and check out our groceries. Go to Walmart any time of the year right now. They'll have 30 lanes with nobody in them. There's self-checkouts. There's automated feedback systems on Amazon returns. There's all kinds of different substitute projects out there. We can think about this in modern use like ethanol for gasoline, vegetable oil for diesel. Electricity is a simplistic one, solar and wind, right? Virtual employees. Try calling Dell. Their help desks are in India or all over the place. They look at mass customization to help with the business behaviors, to specialize for their clients. Nike is great for this. They change everything. And look how they're integrating IT right into their shoes now to track every step you take, integrating it in with their wristwatches, sends it back to your own website and theirs, monitors, and you can use this for health statistics to lower your insurance rate. It's an advantage of putting different niche markets together to make one big one. Delta Flyers is fun. It keeps all my data. I use their credit card to buy everything. I use their services. I help myself. A lot of it's about evaluating the chain analysis and trying to get that down in cost and the sunk costs. IT is one of the big forces in this model to make it happen. A little bit different way to think of things, and I want you to think about how you can integrate yourself into the workforce now. A lot of these jobs today are open. You don't have to just be hired by one company. You can be hired by 20 companies and still sit in the comfort of your home, or right now in the comfort of your dorm room or wherever you are. There's a lot of different things you can do with the skills you have. Start thinking about how you can look for a place for yourself or start your own niche business. All right, gang, have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.